3, 2, 1.
There are currently 3.8 billion women and 3.9 billion men on Earth. Having this many people, one would think that everyone would be vastly different, even within the gender groups, but everyone expects people to be the same. I am someone who cares strongly about gender equality, so I follow gender social norms in the media all the time. Gender social norms have impacted and formed the way that society views men and women. First, I will fill you in on what a social norm is and what a gender social norm is. Then, I will spin back the clock and explain the history of some of the most common gender social norms. And finally, I will flip the script and describe how many traditional social and gender norms have changed in the past decade. Now, let's begin as I fill you in on what a social norm is and what a gender social norm is. From a sociologist's perspective, social norms are informal understandings that govern the behavior of members of a society. According to an article on simplypsychology.com, published in 2008, social norms provide us with an expected idea of how to behave in particular social groups or situations. This would be things such as when you meet someone for the first time, you're supposed to shake their hand. Now, gender social norms are a subset of social norms, and these are the behavioral expectations around a person's sex. Gender social norms are made up from the attitudes and activities that society deems more appropriate from one sex over the other. These are things that a critical mass of people generally believe about males and females. Next up, let's spin back the clock as I explain the history of some of the most common gender social norms. The first and perhaps most well-known gender norm is girls are associated with pink and boys are associated with blue. According to Jean McLady, author of When Did Girls Start Wearing Pink, published on April 7, 2011 on SmithsonianMag.com, gender identification by color began in the 20th century in the Eastern world. In 1927, Time magazine published an article that listed the colors that parents should dress their kids in. Pink was listed as a strong color and recommended for boys, while blue was listed as a dainty color and recommended for girls. In the 1940s, this all changed. Companies started to make pink items for girls and blue items for boys. They simply did this because girls liked the color pink more, and it was the same way for boys with the color blue. The next gender norm is hair length. In today's world, long hair is associated with girls and short hair with boys. The meaning behind having long hair dates back to ancient Greece. According to an article on Time.com published on June 16, 2016, having long hair was associated with nobility and royalty. Being part of a rich or royal family meant that you had time to have long groomed hair, long nails, and pale, beautiful skin. If you worked and were poor, you had short hair, stubby nails, and tan skin because you were out in the sun all day. In this case, it wasn't a gender issue at all, it was a socioeconomic thing. The final gender norm that we'll explore is body hair. In today's society, girls aren't supposed to have body hair and boys are. The first razor shaped the way we know today wasn't made until 1903. It took years for the inventor of this razor to challenge the connection of shaving and masculinity. Shaving was seen as something only men do and made them look stronger. It didn't become a norm for women to shave any body hair until 1915. In a fashion magazine called Harper's Bazaar, it told women that they had to shave their armpits in order to wear the sleeveless dress. Shaving your legs didn't become normal until the 1940s. The introduction of shorter skirts and thinner stockings due to having less materials in World War II made the idea of removing body hair more ideal. As seen here, these gender stereotypes have clearly changed over time to get to see what we see as normal today. Finally, let's flip the script and describe how many gender social norms have changed in the last decade. Nowadays, for men, having long hair makes you look dirty, and for women, having short hair makes you look clean and sophisticated. Today, shaving isn't masculine at all. If men shave anything other than their face, it gets pointed out. And if women don't shave their legs or their pits, they get called nasty and gross. In the dating world, it is tradition for the man to ask the woman out, but it goes either way now due to social media apps like Tinder. Makeup was seen as something only women do to feel pretty, but there are several makeup influencers now that are male. People often favor them and they have millions of followers. Many careers have also flipped their gender standards. According to an article on NewYorkTimes.com published on September 6, 2014, 42% of all teachers are now male, contrary to the belief that most teachers are female. Even though the fitness and personal trainer world is seen as often male-dominant, it is said in a study done by the American Fitness Institute, published on PRNewsWire.com, that 62% of the world's personal trainers are female. It is clear that social gender norms haven't just changed, but have changed our society as well. First, I defined what a social norm is and what a gender social norm is. Then, I explained the history of some of the most common gender social norms. Finally, I showed how people have flipped some of these norms in the last decade. Gender social norms have impacted and formed the way that society views men and women. Will these norms continue to change? For the better? For the worse? Society will just have to wait and see.